Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep. Today we are talking about Deku and his descent from being a hero. Chapter 319 explores the dynamic between the other UA students and Deku's ambition to leave them behind due to safety concerns. The problem with Deku's desire is that it falls under some criticism of trust and judgment, where the other students feel like Deku should believe in them and their resolve as well to be selfless heroes that can change hero society for the better just like him, rather than Deku taking on all the burden for himself. In a way, a lot of them also feel like Deku could be looking down upon them due to being weak in comparison to him, implied through the idea that they will be injured or in the way of Deku's fights. Loki, it is facts, it's true, but I get it, it's for the narrative story, right? Oh, Shonen, I'm joking.
Well, let's be nice. Let's be nice. We don't have to go there. I mean, you're not wrong, but you didn't have to say it.
Deku's philosophy in the recent chapters has changed, even though he is the one that instilled hope in all of his friends to be an ideal hero just like him. That is why they are calling out the hypocrisy in chapter 319. Deku ended up unlocking all the drip. Deku got the drip. Deku's got the drip, bruh. And basically the other cast are like, bruh, we want some of that shit too. Why are you holding that shit for yourself? We're characters as well, right? Yeah. Now remember, the other students heard about Deku leaving UA in chapter 306. In that chapter, Deku sent letters to all his friends explaining his feelings for them and how he had to reveal his biggest secret regarding One For All, in which All Might passed on the quirk to him, and that's why All For One and Shigaraki are coming after him. At that moment, Deku left UA High in order to protect his friends from coming into harm's way with all these assassins and villains All For One has thrown towards Deku. The chapter is centralized on Uraraka's reaction, and she ends up calling Deku a dummy, you know, because she's in love with him and all. In fact, all the girls in My Hero know that Uraraka is in love with Deku, so when is she planning to express those feelings? Imagine she expresses those feelings in front of everyone right now. Oh my god. Oh my god! Wow! So chapter 319 starts with Ida asking the others why they haven't contacted their mentors, in which all three reply with stating that they aren't responding to their calls or text messages. Likely because someone like Skeptic from the villain side could be listening or tracking them, right? But you know, to me it sounds like a good excuse some girls will use, man!
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Shoto finds that zero communication from the three top heroes is very odd, so it must mean they are hiding something, especially considering in chapter 302 Endeavor and Shoto had decided to go after Shoto Todoroki together. Jiro mentions that All Might hasn't come back either. These students are shut in their dorms inside UA with no ongoing classes, so the amount of information they can gather is very limited. Bakugo concludes that the letters must have been delivered by All Might, as Deku is too afraid to even come near people at the moment, let alone his close friends. And since Best Jeanist and Hawks were talking to Deku at the hospital, he must be with them. Some of the students feel fine with the idea of Deku being with the top three heroes, as they are the strongest amongst the heroes and are the biggest shield for him. However, Deku does not agree. Bakugo, being acquainted with Deku since childhood and being close with All Might throughout knowing Deku's secret before anyone else, he has come to the conclusion that this is the worst scenario possible. This is a parallel and contrast for when Bakugo was kidnapped by the League of Villains, and Deku was the one that had to make a plan and convince their friends to save him by themselves. Once again, Horikoshi is developing their rivalry, with Bakugo in his own weird way repaying their favor and showing love through saving Deku from despair and bringing him back to his senses. Remember in chapter 318, Deku almost completely gave up and was overwhelmed, having to be saved from Dictator by Bakugo. Anyways, everyone rushes over trying to figure out how to contact the top three heroes, and that's when Uraraka with her 5-head brain figures out that since Endeavor is a former UA student, they can probably use the principal and the school to get a hold of him. So the principal tricked Endeavor as he thinks he should listen to what the class has to say. Shoto yells at Endeavor for keeping keeping him in the dark when he promised they would stop Toya Todoroki together. Endeavor replies saying that Shoto's sentiment about working alongside his father, this connection alone to his remaining family, is what saved him against Darby back during the war. After his regrets with Toya Todoroki and the rest of his children ostracizing him, Endeavor doesn't want to hurt the bonds he has healed once again, rising like a phoenix through the scars and wounds he has. However, Shoto Todoroki, he isn't convinced. He exclaims if Midoriya is the exception. He then addresses his father not as a dad, but Endeavor by his name as the pro hero. He is upset that the #1 hero is letting Deku and All Might act together, where the same mistakes are being repeated and the students are not being treated equally in certain regards. In Shoto's perspective, Endeavor, who messed up their family in a selfish pursuit of beating All Might with his kin, he's repeating the same selfish behavior which made him so unhero-like. Only this time it's selfishness to protect his newfound bond with Shoto Todoroki. With this envisioning and philosophy, Endeavor can understand and see that Deku is going the same dark path as him in his pursuit of wanting to save everybody and being alone. So Endeavor, who put so much on Shoto's or Toya's shoulders, doesn't want to do the same anymore as he has seen what it leads to. However, instead of his family, now he has put this burden upon Deku. Bakugo interjects stating he knew that All Might and Deku were working together. He says that Endeavor doesn't understand anything about him. Deku never takes himself into account while saving others or protecting them. He claims that he is always fine, and this is also how All Might became the symbol of peace with this mentality. All Might didn't care for himself at all, just like Deku. Saving others always came first. If we look at the Vigilante manga, there it is shown that All Might worked 3 days and nights straight with no rest. This others come first mentality can also be seen with All Might's first battle against All for One, where half of his respiratory system was absolutely crushed, almost killing him. However, he did not retire. He wanted to keep saving people even after Night Eye's prophecy of how All Might would die in 6 years. Bakugo concludes that we can't leave these two people alone. Instead of a villain killing them, it will be fatigue. We already saw in the last chapter, 318, how Deku could barely jump against the Dictator due to his body being at work for who knows how long. If you didn't have a clue what I'm talking about right now, or you don't know anything about the Vigilante manga, I highly suggest to watch my video regarding how strong All Might was in his prime. We explain in complete detail of his story with One for All since it's so prevalent in the manga right now. You must hit the notification bell for our channel to stay up to date with our community, and please smash the like button because it helps supports us more than you know. Now, in chapter 319, Endeavor remembers them discussing how Hawks, Jeanist and him need to keep Deku in check so he doesn't overpace himself, and that's when he realizes the students are correct. He is following the same dark path as himself if he keeps going further. Endeavor then throws a GPS with Deku and All Might's location to the students, signaling to them that they can go help him. The classmates state that even if they only known Deku for a year, they still feel a connection with him. He is their friend that has helped them in this 1 year alone to change as people. So how can they smile tomorrow knowing that their friend is walking such a lonely and troublesome path alone? They will follow Deku wherever he goes. This gives us another clue that the ending of My Hero could be Deku sharing the quirk with every one of his friends to defeat All for One, boosting all of their quirks and power, as all of these characters share importance and have the will to be selfless heroes that want to save others and reform society. All the students share the same responsibility and can take on the burdens together rather than one person alone, metaphorically embodying the meaning of One for All in the first place, especially since Horikoshi did mention that every character will play a role in the ending, and this was one of the original ending ideas he had, which ended up being in the Heroes Rising movie, with One for All being shared to Bakugo. So finally, once they get the location mission and information they need from Endeavor and Nezu, Class 1A arrive on the scene and capture the escaped villain, working for All For One, which is Dictator. This then also frees the civilians who had become puppets attacking Deku, and suddenly Bakugo sarcastically mocks Deku, calling him the great successor of One For All. Now I'll be passing on the video to Yusuf as he will explain more of the philosophy and the last few pages of the chapter.
Now, Bakugo's question to Deku if he can still keep smiling is actually a valid one. As we pointed out time and time again, in pursuit of defeating All For One, Deku has become a dark, lonely boy as his spirit is slowly dying from the trials and tribulations that he's been put through due to All For One's desire to steal the quirk and ultimately rule the world. Bakugo asking this question is important because the personification of Deku's very suit when he first introduced it symbolically showed his smile in his own choice of design, but now it's broken and tattered. We can even see the state of mind Deku is in. With his response to Bakugo sounding very similar to Eren, he states, "To be able to smile, for people to live in peace, I need to keep moving forwards." Now, this is completely understandable, especially since Deku believes it's his responsibility and he has to fulfill the gap that All Might left. One could even say that Deku has a bigger burden than All Might because he understands the inner workings of One For All, with the vestiges telling him his destiny along with knowing the entire history of this fight, as he discovered that this is a century-long battle to defeat All For One, where countless people and heroes have lost their lives in the process of achieving the reality he's trying to succeed in. However, the problem is Deku's process of thinking, which led to him losing admiration to embody the essence of a true hero. You're probably wondering, what's so wrong with that, ABD? I don't understand. Deku is still able to get the job done, right? Well, let me give you guys an example to properly explain the perspective of others. Imagine your job is to be the best basketball player in the world, and you love the sport so much. When you win a game, you get so high with endorphins that it gives you a sense of purpose and even a push. The love for the sport will push you further and further and maybe even help you unlock your full potential. Now, let's take this into a different route. Imagine you don't love basketball at all, but you have to play because you were born tall. And let's say your father will beat your ass if you don't. And I ain't talking from experience, alright? But the point is, every time you lose a game, you get reprimanded. You play out of fear and under pressure, which ultimately makes you work better. However, eventually you will snap when you hit your breaking point. You will spiral out of control, feeling useless and unworthy. Now let's apply this to Deku. Currently he is saving lives due to feeling burdened by his responsibility. He fears failure. After he saves one person, he moves on to the next quicker than he can appreciate how that person is feeling or what he has accomplished. This is a direct contrast when he saved Eri and made her smile again, or even Kota that decided to call him my hero and wants to be like him. The whole point of saving someone with a smile was so that it inspires hope and increases morale in society. It also benefits the heroes as smiling even when in a crisis has psychological effects, as one study suggests that smiling can help us recover faster from stress and reduce our heart rate. So Deku not smiling and looking so monstrous not only affects those he saved but also himself. This is exactly what All For One is trying to do. He wants to break Deku's spirit and will because that is the only way to absorb the One For All quirk. It's all a battle of wills. However, unlike All For One, Deku has real friends that cares about him beyond similar goals and desires. All For One has manipulated Shigaraki to combine his hatred with his desire, as he figured out that this was the only way to overpower the combination of the power the vestiges of One For All has. So this gives us a huge clue to how he can lose, by Shigaraki realizing the truth of this deception. Throughout My Hero Academia, Deku had been an inspiration to every generation, to All Might, to Kota, and to each of his classmates. He helped Shoto realize that his fire quirk belongs to him, therefore unlocking his potential. He helped Uraraka be motivated to do her best, Ida to not take revenge for what happened to his brother, and even Bakugo to reform his attitude to become a true hero like he was. Deku helped shape Bakugo become the hero he is today. Like in chapter 284, Bakugo confessed to All Might he bullied Deku as he ignored his own weakness. However, from Deku, Bakugo grew to realize that it's okay to have flaws and not be perfect, and he should be working with his teammates focusing on saving others rather than thinking about self-accomplishments. In fact, on the topic of chapter chapter 284, Bakugo actually predicted this outcome for Deku when he pointed out that Deku deep down doesn't take himself into account, and now that he has more power and can do much more, Bakugo felt something wasn't right. Bakugo was the first to see this sign, which led Deku to become the broken, tattered hero he is depicted to be. As Deku clashes with his friends, shouting, "All of you get out of my way!" But none of them are having it. Bakugo responds, calling Deku out, challenging him, saying that he's just a wannabe All Might.
So true.
This fight is going to be insane. In a way, it's a parallel to Mirio vs UA. When Mirio was introduced as a super strong character with experience, he bodied all of them in single hits. Deku similarly now has an incredible arsenal of quirks. But this fight will showcase the difference between working as a team versus working by yourself. It will develop every single character involved, but also displays Deku's growth with One for All at the same time, therefore killing two birds with one stone. After this fight, Deku will realize that his friends are not weak, and they also have their own resolve. For our gang, the mission is to subdue Deku, forcing him to realize he still needs help. Not accepting help from those around him is exactly what All for One wants. All for One wants Deku to do everything alone so he can single him out more easily. So that's pretty much everything we would like to say for this week, but make sure to hit that notification bell for our channel to get updated every week. We also have some amazing clothing lines for sale, so if you guys are interested, the link will be pinned in the comment section below. But with that, thanks for joining, and I'll catch you till next time.